4, 3, 2, 1.
Derek knows all about Rihanna.
Oh, yeah.
But
how many concerts have you gone to, Derek?
Like 2 my whole life. And the last one was July 95, Bon Jovi at the Star Lake Amphitheater.
in this week's roommate update, Chris, my 20-year-old roommate, 20, which is a big factor in this. My dad, I had a lot of my family and my friends over on Saturday night to hang out. We had
How
a
old's
fire.
your dad?
My dad, he was born in 75, so he's 49.
Wait, what? Your dad's 49?
Yeah.
Psh.
He has a girlfriend. I get a lot of my looks from him. I do. We were actually talking about this.
I'm totally joking.
Yeah. He listens to this too.
Jake
He's gonna hear
laughed.
that. He's gonna hear that. He listens.
Jake laughed.
This is just the C plot of our podcast.
But my dad bought, I had a lot of my family and my friends over Saturday night. My dad bought, because he thought I was gonna get drunk. I ended up not getting drunk. If I had, my brother's TV on the porch might have been broken with the way Ohio State lost. But my dad bought
Quack.
me.
Quack.
It's called Lacto Cooler. It's like an IPA. It's like an IPA from a place down in Pittsburgh, and one of the beer distributors around here, he convinced them to add it because he likes it. And he spent $25 on a 4-pack that's for me. I only drank one. It's good. It tastes like apple Jolly Ranchers, and it's 4.5 alcohol.
Wow.
And my roommate goes in my fridge last night, and he texts in a group chat me and my other roommate have with him, and he goes, "Is that alcohol with the green can yours, Brett?" I said, "Don't even think about it." It's because he ate pizza. That was my brother's that I put in the fridge after we went out on Saturday and had pizza. It's you got it.
Oh, he's one of those who just eats and drinks whatever he wants but doesn't buy it.
Well, I told you guys about the tattoo gun, and I went back. It was Friday of last week, Friday night after my North Catholic game. I go back, and he comes out, and I realized a day earlier that I buy Lysol wipes to wipe the counter off with, and I keep the kitchen tidy, and the wipes weren't there, so I was they got to be in Chris's room. I go in, lo and behold, they're in Chris's room. So I take them back out because they're mine. I'm a little upset. Why are you taking my stuff and putting it in your room? Put it on the table, and he comes out at 2 a.m. on Friday night, and he says, as I'm going to sleep, "Hey, man, where are those wipes?" I said, in a very annoyed tone, I was why do you need them? He goes, he points at his arm, and he was drawing lightning on his arm as a tattoo. It looks like varicose veins. Me and my other roommate were it looks like old people veins.
I've got a few of those, actually.
But he still didn't answer the question what he's doing with the wipes.
After you get a tattoo, you're supposed to
No,
keep it clean.
Yeah,
he's not.
Dead serious. He took
I can't hear any more of this.
He took the wipes, and
he needs to move out. You need to find a new roommate.
The $240 a month is nice.
I hear the YMCA has an extra room.
Yeah, I think
I'm getting a little annoyed at this point.
I'd be worried that there's some type of that's not a good situation. I'm just gonna go ahead and
You have an incredible amount of patience if you stick
You
this
really
out of living
do.
with a college age.
I mean, you
kid. I
do
couldn't
seem
that anymore.
calm and
My aunt,
when he's using Lysol wipes to disinfect his.
I went and took homecoming pictures with my sister.
What about Neosporin? Has he never heard of that?
All the girls, Bailey and Anelia, my brother's fiance, and Anelia's sister Jules and her friend Maddie, he went in on Saturday night, and he has a crush on Anelia's sister who's 19. And he has a crush on Maddie. He has a crush on both of them. So he goes in and he tries to talk to them and impress them. Mm-hmm. And he walked out on the porch. He's like, "Chris, did you show them your tattoo?" Because we talked about it earlier in the week and early in the day. And he goes in and he's telling them about it. And they were saying you're gonna get that infected. I've seen videos on Twitter and Instagram of people getting tattoos and not taking care of them properly, or the needles are dirty, and you get a very serious infection from that. You can lose your arm. And he was telling them, he's "You guys don't know anything." He's "You're giving yourself tattoos."
The only tattoo I've gotten, I got 4 days before that road trip I talked about a few episodes ago, where I got elevation sickness in Yellowstone, and during that, we're not showering for long stretches of that trip because we are going across the country. There's no time, but I had to every day put the cleaning solution on to make sure that stayed clean. Yeah, and how does a person who wants to be a tattoo artist? I'm assuming that's kind of what he wants to be.
He doesn't know what he wants to be.
Oh,
He's waiting for his calling.
Anyway, to circle back.
I know it can be, yeah.
Circle back to Halloween. Mallory's thinking about having me do Lisa Belcher for that episode in 2 weeks, but we got to find the time to actually like get the stuff and like prepare.
Should be interesting.
I don't know if it's going to work out, so I might be coming in like really half-butted here for that episode. We'll see what we can do.
Half-butted.
Okay.
I can
that's the
control
one,
myself. Right.
and that would be the one after your wedding.
Yes. Yeah.
I have one more question here.
Yeah.
I'm judging each of you on this.
Great.
I'll go last. What is your favorite Halloween/scary movie? Bailey and I watched The Nun. I've seen it before. We watched The Nun this past few days. I've seen it. It's a good movie. But what are you guys' favorites? What do you think is the best Halloween movie?
Oh, I don't really care for horror movies.
Oh,
so
scared.
Yeah, it's fine.
How about you, Derek?
The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The original 1974 Tobe Hooper. Nobody's ever going to convince me that that's not the greatest horror movie ever made.
I'll have to watch it. I've only seen the 15 remakes.
Yeah, watch the original. It's absolutely the best.
Your turn.
Hold on, I think. Nope, that's not what I wanted.
There you go.
So I love horror movies. I've been watching them since I was a kid. My mom was like, that's going to scare her, and it didn't. The only movie that ever gave me nightmares was Nightmare on Elm Street. I used to have nightmares about Freddy Krueger, but that's not the scariest one. This is tough.
Jeepers Creepers.
No, that's dumb. That one is so dumb. They say The Exorcist is of all time, but I'm going to be honest with you. The Shining, I don't know. I might have to go with a classic. I might have to say it's a toss-up between The Shining and, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Mallory really loves The Shining.
It's like
she wanted to go see horror movies with me for a while, and then the It remakes came out in the last 10 years. And she's like, you have to go see this with me. And I basically told her, I was like, okay, these are the only horror movies you will ever take me to the theater. If this is the one that you want, this is it. And she's like, well, there's two. I was like, dang it. And then I was like, okay, these are the only two that you will ever get. I will not go see. If you want to go see another horror movie in theater, you either got to go alone or go with someone else. Like this is your one free pass. I was like, you gotta make sure that this is the right choice. And so I've seen both It movies, which they were well put together. I still don't enjoy them because I don't like going and watching things that are intending to scare me. I don't find that fun. I want to watch a movie or TV show that is enjoyable.
When I went to a student journalism conference in 2019, I would have been a junior in college. We fell asleep, me and the two guys that were sharing the hotel room. There were two beds. We fell asleep with It on TV, and maybe it wasn't even on TV at that point because it was like TNT. So maybe we were watching like a World Series game or something like that, like World Series coverage after.
Which one though? Like, are we talking original Tim Curry It?
Like the new It's
or the new
the first
one?
one came out in like
the first of two.
2016 or something like that.
So this was on.
So that's the remake of the original.
Yeah.
And then there's the second one. Okay.
We were sleeping, and I remember waking up in the middle of the night to the part of It where the clown is saying, "You'll float too, you'll float." And I woke up and I was like, "What is going on here?" It didn't scare me.
Like, am I floating?
It didn't scare me, but I think you can't go wrong with the Halloween movies. Michael Myers. My dad used to. There was this one patch of neighborhood that we went to trick or treating that didn't have any lights. It was like this road for probably like not even a fourth of. I messed it up. Not even like
a fourth of a mile?
Yeah, not even that. Like it was very short, and there were no lights. It was dark. It was all woods. And my dad, I would always run through that because my dad would say Michael Myers is down there waiting for you. So,
but here's the thing: talk about patience. Michael Myers, man, he kept that same pace the whole time.
Yep.
And people were running and screaming and hiding, and he just was like there, just.
And he waited 15 years before he came out of the asylum.
Yeah.
The sanitarium.
I don't understand horror movie logic that a character walking will beat someone that is sprinting.
Have you seen those movies?
Because they fall and they get frantic and they try to hide and they're looking around and they're. Have you ever seen that one commercial? I think it's a Geico commercial.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Where they're like, someone's like, "What about the running car?" And they're like, "No, What about that barn full of chainsaws and they all go in there and the guy's like,
You're making this too easy for me.
seriously? Like, this is where you're hiding?
These are my two problems with horror movies. One, almost all of them, I can easily, logically get myself out of them if I were in that theoretical situation. And two, I just don't want to be like potentially scared. Like, I don't enjoy the thought of being scared. So,
Oh, okay.
like,
See, I do.
One, they're logical fallacies all the time. But two, it's then the gore. The gore side of it, especially, is not my thing.
I know what we need to do for Brendan. We need to bring a red balloon and put it on his chair.
That wouldn't scare me. There's not a lot.
Or
that
like
scares
during
me.
the episode, it just like floats up. The lights go out and it
Right
floats up,
behind him.
and these two
Right
disappear.
horror movie characters.
And then he's behind you with the mask.
You'll float too. You'll float too.
horror movie characters fumble the keys like Fitzgerald Toussaint did in the 2015 AFC divisional game.
Welcome to Eye on Sports, where we delve into the biggest Butler County sports topics. I'm your host, Butler Eagle Sports writer Derek Pida. Joining me are fellow sports writer Brendan Howell and Eagle Sports editor Jake Adams.
Today's episode is sponsored by Butler County Chamber of Commerce, Robert Stevens Custom Jewelers, R.W. McDonald & Sons Incorporated. Thank you to our sponsors for supporting Eye on Sports.
Well, why don't we get started with the show today?
I think Derek's 4-3, right?
4-4. I missed
4-4.
last week. Yep, I missed last week.
Oh yeah,
That guy who scored the safety in that game back in September of 1933.
John Ollinger, right here.
Not hurting at all by this.
John Oler. I didn't even know his name right.
We had North Catholic boys win Whitfield 2A golf title last week. Whitfield girls tennis, we learned a little bit earlier today, as of recording Tuesday afternoon, that the semifinals and finals are being moved back another day because of weather. So North Catholic's girls team, which is in the 2A semifinals, has a chance to make the final and qualify for states as a team later this week. By the time this recording drops on Thursday morning, we will know if they're in the championship or third place game.
If they play tomorrow, that is.
If they play, that's true. If they play tomorrow, and we have soccer brackets coming out for Whitfield on Wednesday and volleyball on Friday. Mm-hmm. So, Brendan, Derek, in my host duties right now, I'm going to throw it to you guys and ask you a little bit about the soccer and maybe volleyball. If you got any volleyball thoughts, postseason field we have right now, without knowing exactly what the brackets are going to look like. Brendan, why don't we start with you first?
So the boys soccer, that's the kind of load that I carried here, was Seneca Valley has our reigning boys soccer player of the year in Tyler Prex. They, I think, are done with section play, so they finished third in their section. Prex has shown an ability to score goals at a quick clip. He scored 4 against Fox Chapel recently, which is another playoff team and another really strong team in that section. Mars is a pretty good player. And Sean Scanlon, and that team finished second in Section 1-3A and only had one conference loss, which is really impressive. We also can't forget about Slippery Rock, which just recently won its region.
District 10.
Who's of the teams you've seen on the boys soccer side? Is there any that has impressed you, or a player even that's impressed you most so far?
I would say Seneca Valley. I covered them a lot. They're both their matchups with Butler this year, which Butler was a team that kind of was disappointing in the way that they finished. Especially the way that they played last year. But Seneca Valley, with Prex, you can see why he was our reigning player of the year last year. Like when he's on the field, there's 2 or 3 guys watching him at all times, and still he finds a way to make plays.
Derek, how about you? Girls soccer, what do we got to know this week?
So Seneca Valley girls dealt with some pretty major injuries this year. Ashley Libby, who was a star forward for them last year, missed half of this season. Fortunately for the Raiders, it was the first half of the year. She's now back. I believe she has already scored 9 goals after her return. And they also lost their goalkeeper, which forced a sophomore first-year starter in Sydney Potsler into the net. So they're dealing with these injuries at obviously key positions, and here they are undefeated in section. The brackets come out tomorrow. My guess is they are going to be the number 2 seed behind Peters Township, who is one of the teams that beat them this year. But obviously Seneca Valley girls are going to be a team to watch in those Whitfield Quad A playoffs. Mars's girls have 2 losses this year. Both losses are 1-goal defeats to Fox Chapel. But anytime you're talking about a program with the history of success as Mars girls, they have to be a team to watch. I would not be surprised if they end up winning the Whitbill title, even if they have to go through Fox Chapel to get there, because they've proven that they're basically on par with Fox Chapel. 2 1-goal losses. I mean, that could easily turn into a 1-goal win come playoff time. Blair Gerlach's a great coach. He'll have those girls ready. Freeport girls just won their section under first-year head coach Steve Kukic. We're going to focus on them in a little bit with our podcast interview. Butler and North Catholic girls will also be involved in the Whitbill tournament. And I know the Whitbill brackets are going to be released here tomorrow on Wednesday, but I do have to throw out a shout-out to Karn City girls, who are going to enter the District 9 playoffs with a 14-4 record. And Slippery Rock girls tonight, Tuesday, have a chance to tie Grove City for the region title. Even if they lose, they're going to be a strong second place and still be in the District 10 playoffs.
That's a lot of playoff teams that you've brought up. Is there anyone, similar question to Brennan, is there anyone that has impressed you most? Or maybe is there someone who surprised you, pleasantly surprised you so far this season with their play?
I got to be honest with you. This might sound like taking the easy way out, but considering the injuries they had, the fact that they were missing their top offensive player from last year for the first half of the year, and they have a first-year starting goalkeeper in sophomore Sydney Postler, I got to go with Seneca Valley. Not the fact that they made the playoffs. They're usually strong enough to make the playoffs. I think the last time they missed it was literally 10 years ago in 2014. But the fact that they are going to go to the playoffs as not only a section champion but also an undefeated section champion. I think a lot of credit goes to obviously the players down at Seneca Valley and Mark Perry, who before coming to Seneca, he was the head coach at Central Valley and had a lot of success there. So they got the right guy in place down there to, okay, deal with the injuries. Here's what we do have available to us. Let's find a way to get the best out of that. And they've done that. They're going to be going to the Whitbill playoffs with just 2 losses overall and a section champion. And that's a tough section too, because you're talking about NA, Pine Richland, Butler's in that section. They actually have a losing section record, under 500. But Mark Perry told me he would not want to play Butler in the playoffs because they are a talented team. And sometimes when you look at a team and say, okay, they were only 3-5 or 4-6 in the section, you kind of get this idea in your head that they're not that strong of a team. But in reality, they are.
Yeah. How about volleyball? Do you guys have any thoughts on volleyball? I've seen Seneca Valley Butler play a couple weeks ago. Seneca Valley looked really, really good in that game. We have a couple more games to go that are going to decide some of the section seeding and whatnot here between now and Friday's announcements. The regular season wraps up on Thursday, I believe. But any thoughts on any of the teams at this stage, a few days out, that look like they're probably going to make it?
Well, I'm covering the Freeport Mars game on Thursday, and as far as I know, last time I checked, which was yesterday afternoon, I don't think anything's changed since then. We talked before. Tom Phillips was our guest on the show a few weeks back, the head coach for Freeport volleyball. Freeport has won at least a share of their section title for 19 straight seasons. For them to keep that streak going this year, they have to defeat Mars on Thursday, because Mars defeated Freeport earlier this year. So to pull even with the Planets and grab a share of the section title, Freeport has to win. The other thing that I think is going to be very interesting to see is, Brennan, the strong tradition that North Catholic has in volleyball. AA, AAA, they've won Whitbill titles, they've won state titles. This year they moved up to Quad A, so now they're playing with Pine Richland, North Allegheny. So how, even though they have a very strong team, how can that talent translate to when you're going up against the biggest class, the biggest schools in this area? And NA's ranked in the state. I mean, NA is always top 5 or 6 in the state. So how can North Catholic fare now that they are in the biggest class that the state has to offer? I'm going to be interested to find that out.
He kind of took what I was going to say there with North Catholic. When I talked to Amanda Feder last week for an upcoming story on Siena Causa, their star setter that's going to UNC, she said that, which was kind of weird with the 3 years I've been here, and I'm sure for Derek, having seen what they've done over the past decade or so, she said that playoffs weren't a short thing for them yet, which I'm sure they'll make it there. But the fact that they have done so well and made the state playoffs, I think each year I've been here, made the state title game that I went to cover a few years ago, the fact that playoffs weren't yet completely in the question for them was very interesting for me to hear.
Yeah. That story will be out later this week. One additional note here, I forgot to mention it at the beginning, is with North Catholic Boys Golf's team title, Chris Faber, 79 at the team championship. Derek, you talked to them a little bit earlier this week for a story that's been out, just kind of recapping how that tournament went. They Had a rough back or front nine to start day 2 of that tournament, but rallied on a day when a lot of the teams ahead of them and behind them were struggling a little bit, and were able to do just enough without. And it seemed like from the story you were telling that they didn't really know that they were going to be in contention to even win that. They thought they were kind of out of it for most of those 18 holes, and here they are with second team title in 4 years, I believe it is.
Yeah, they won the Whipple Championship under head coach Billy Burke back in 2021. They won it again this year. The Trojans did 13 strokes better on the second nine as opposed to their front nine. And as their coach, Ryan Parrish, told me, when the kids were coming on the turn, in between holes, because they actually started on the back nine. So this would have been after the 18th hole and before number 1. Ryan Parrish told the kids, hey, everybody's struggling here. I mean, all the teams are struggling. So North Catholic went out, and they had by far the best front nine of any team there, and they actually ended up edging out Greensburg Central Catholic by exactly 1 stroke. So you think back to all the big shots that those golfers made during the course of that round. Every single one really mattered because they beat Greensburg by 1 stroke.
I'm sure, it's such an individual sport, but one person makes par on a tough hole, one person makes birdie, and those things can kind of snowball pretty quickly and kind of turn the momentum a little bit. Last note too is we've got Whipple Cross Country Championships coming up next Thursday. There's one more big meet this weekend or Thursday afternoon when this show comes out. That's down in White Oak Park, I believe. Butler's going to be there. A few other of our local teams are going to be there too. So there's definitely going to be a lot more going on postseason wise in the running side of things too. So it's going to be a busy few weeks. Are you guys ready for the playoffs?
Bring it. Hey, this is a fun time of the year though, because so much is at stake, whether it's a sport like cross country, volleyball, soccer, so much is at stake, and I enjoy covering it.
How about you, Brendan? You ready?
I like getting out and covering things and being out of the office, so I will enjoy going and doing those, especially with the atmosphere of a playoff game is much different, obviously, than a regular season game where the crowd is more into it. Every kind of play, every thing that happens in a playoff game. I don't want to just say play because obviously soccer is different there, and but everything is different. Like you can feel the desperation kind of. So it's always fun to write about. There's a lot of emotion in the quotes after, things like that.
Well, speaking of emotional quotes here, we're going to have Freeport's girls soccer coach on next.
Our guest this week on the Eye on Sports podcast is Freeport varsity girls soccer coach Steve Kukic. The Yellow Jackets recently wrapped up the Whipple Section 2 2A title, and this podcast is being taped on Tuesday, October 15th. Entering tonight's game, non-section game against Riverview, Freeport is 11-1-1 overall and 8-1-1 in section play. Steve, congratulations to you and the girls on the section crown, and thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. This is my first podcast, so I'm excited and ready to go.
We'll take it easy on you.
All right, thanks.
Some days it's our first podcast, too.
Steve, this is your first year of leading the Yellow Jackets. Can you tell us about your background in soccer and your coaching history in the sport?
Sure. I started pretty early. I think when I was around 7 or 8 years old, started playing indoor soccer and in-house soccer in the East Allegheny School District. We were lucky to have a very good youth program there back in the day. And, I got started there, and I got thrown in goal, and I've been a goalkeeper ever since, and played all through my youth and got on the club teams and continued through high school and college as well. Coaching wise, I started out at Penn Trafford High School coaching the boys as an assistant coach in the early 2000s. We had some good teams there, and then I moved on to Pitt Greensburg, which I was there for, I think, 12 years, coaching the boys and the girls team. And then last year is my last year at Pitt Greensburg, and this is my first year as a head coach, but it's gone well so far.
And when you first saw the girls on the field in action, in practice, a workout, whatever it was, what were your initial thoughts on the talent level that the team possessed and what the girls were capable of this year?
Well, I mean, before we even got started, I watched all the games from last year. We have a huddle account, so all the games were taped. So I knew we had some talent coming back. And then what I really noticed was how hard they played on the field, the effort they gave. It was very noticeable on tape. And everyone told me, what a big freshman class we had coming in. So, I made it a point to go watch some of their club games over the spring and summer to see to get an idea of what we had coming in. And, for a double A school, we had 14 freshmen coming in, and, we get a direct impact from 6 or 7 of them this year. So, the depth in our team is, I think, a lot better than it's been in a while. And, a huge, very talented freshman class really helped that.
Yeah, and you bring up that freshman class. When I came out and talked to you recently for a feature story on Cameron Woods, you said that it makes up about half of your team, which makes for an interesting dynamic with young girls like that, kind of having to step up and be leaders. So who would you say are the leaders on this year's team, whether from a play on the field standpoint or from a vocal standpoint?
Well, we have 4 captains this year. 2 seniors, Addison Christophic and Sam Lippett, junior Peyton Loss, and sophomore Cameron Woods. They all have their distinct way of being leaders. I would say Cameron is probably the most vocal, and even as a sophomore. So I think it was nice that we have representation from 3 classes, senior, juniors, and sophomores. Our goalkeeper, she's also a vocal leader for us, and, her play on the field speaks for itself because she's made some huge saves, which kept us in a couple of close games this year. And, but overall, I think our leadership is pretty good, and, so far so good this year.
Coach, it's not just leadership that you need sometimes from the players. Sometimes you need just someone to break the ice a little bit or to crack some of the tension a little bit. So is there a player or two or a group of players that you can kind of count on, or maybe sometimes you're not counting on it in that moment and it happens for them to just kind of bring a little bit of levity to the situation and crack a couple jokes?
Yeah, well, it's weird because I think our upperclassmen are maybe a little more businesslike, but our younger players, like you said, we have half of our team are freshmen, and and you can tell, they're very talented, and they're ready to play all the time. But even in practice and stuff, they're always laughing and goofing around. And in our sophomore class, our center back Brindley Sullivan, she's always very vocal and joking around and talking trash on people. So I think we have a pretty good dynamic. We have a good mix of people that'll lighten up the situation, people who, when it's ready to get down to business, we're always ready to go, I think.
Do you have a particularly good story that you're willing to share about the dynamic of the team or something someone said or did recently?
Well, with Brindley, it's funny because she has a bunch of pictures from club and playing in the past where every time she goes up for a header, she makes this crazy face, and and my dad comes to a lot of our games, and he's a photographer, so he takes pictures, and some of the other parents do as well, and we always laugh because I told my dad to get pictures of her heading the ball because she makes the craziest faces, and we show them around at practice, and everyone laughs and has a good time about it. But Brindley's she's a really good center back, and she's tall and she's big and she's aggressive and she wins a lot of head balls. So she has a lot of opportunity for pictures to be taken, but she makes some crazy faces, and that's for sure. So everyone gets a kick out of that.
Steve, one of the wins pivotal toward the section title that you guys just locked up was a 4-2 victory over North Catholic on October 5th. In your team's first meeting against North Catholic this year, a game I covered actually, the Trojanettes came away with a 4-0 victory. What led to the turnaround in the rematch? What did your team do better with the second time around against North Catholic?
Well, to be honest, the first game, I mean, 4-0, wasn't really indicative of how the game went. It was a lot closer than that. We just made some major mistakes. And, North Catholic's a really good team, and they capitalized on them. They played a little bit different than a lot of other teams. So we had to make some adjustments going into that second game. In the first game, I felt we let up a couple early goals. There were questionable referee decisions, and I'll leave it at that. But, I think we lost our composure a bit. We got a bit razzled. We were coming off of a big 3-0 win against Shadyside, and I think maybe we were a little bit full of ourselves, myself included, to be honest. And I think we were a little bit overconfident going into that game. And to be honest, I think it was one of the best things that happened to us. It told us that, hey, if we don't come and play our game and we're not ready to go, any team can beat us on any given day. And, make no mistake, North Catholic came in and they punished our mistakes, and, they beat us handily. Going into the second game, we did make some adjustments on how we played. But to be honest, the big thing about that was we were just focused and we were ready to go that game. And, Burrell, North Catholic lost to Burrell right before we played them. So that, gave us a chance to control our own destiny to win the section. So that was also a big thing. So we knew if we won our last 3 games that the section would be ours. And North Catholic was the first one of those 3 games. And, I think a lot of factors went into it. We changed our style a little bit. We changed our lineup a bit. We knew that they beat us 4-0 in our own house, the time before. Plus, we knew that if we won out, then we can still win a section championship.
You guys win that section championship. You're in the playoffs there with the combination of first year head coach and how young this team is, and how much I'm sure you'd say like this team still has to learn about itself, learn how to play the game and everything. How important was it, and what did it mean for you and for the team to head into the playoffs as a section champion? You didn't sneak in as a wild card. You didn't get one of the last spots. Like you earned this quite handily.
Yeah. I mean, it's really a testament to our team. I mean, our freshman class is really good and it's deep, but, it's also a testament to our upperclassmen who, brought them in, integrated with them, weren't afraid to share some of the, some of the things that come with winning. Like I said, we have anywhere from 4 to 7 freshmen on the field at a time. And, that means less playing time for some of the older girls. So, that was a juggling act at the beginning of the year, but I think we have a good rotation now, and we're really focused and ready to go. As far as being section champs, I mean, we always want to be that. The goal at the beginning of the year was section championship, WPIAL championship, state championship, and that's still the goal. And I think we have as good a chance as anyone to get there. I think we're playing our best soccer at the end of the year here, and unfortunately, we had a tune-up game against Riverview tonight, but that game got canceled. So, because Riverview, I don't know if they didn't have enough players or something along those lines, but we're just going to have to work really hard in practice to get ready for the playoffs next week. And winning the section helps with our seeding, especially. So hopefully we get a really high seed tomorrow. I think the brackets come out, and we can go from there.
Yeah, and obviously the top 3 teams in your section are you guys, North Catholic, and Burrell, as we've talked about. You beat Burrell twice, once in overtime on a pretty amazing goal by Cameron, and then again in regular time. What are your thoughts on North and Burrell and how those 4 games against those teams help you guys going forward into these playoffs?
Well, our section was really good this year. North Catholic and Burrell, Shadyside finished 4th, but, they were definitely no slouch. I mean, we tied them once this year in a game that was hard fought at their place, but they played every team close as well. So, I mean, that's 6 section games that were, almost like playoff games for all the teams. So I think all the teams, had a pretty good tune-up for what's going to be going on in the playoffs here. So, North Catholic and Burrell, they have just as good a chance as anyone to win everything. The double A bracket and WPIL is wide open. I think there's probably 7-8 teams that have a chance to win it, and we're one of them. So we just need to be ready to go. I think we're pretty well tested this year. So whoever we draw in the playoffs, I think we're going to be ready for.
Steve, a lot of people have had a hand in your success this year. Obviously, you as a first-year coach of the players, but can you tell us some about your assistants and what they've contributed this year?
It's kind of a weird story because I have two assistants. One is Phil Bromfield, and he's from the United Kingdom, and he's over on a visa, but he had some issues and some family issues, so he ended up having to go back over to England. So for 3/4 of the season, we didn't have him. And then the other coach is Misty Smolik, and she's a Freeport native. She played soccer back in the day for them, but she's been really important helping out with not just with the JV team, but with the varsity as well. And definitely couldn't do it without her. And it's been tough with just two coaches, but we're getting it done, and we're getting better as we go. Believe me, it's been a learning process. The first year as a head coach, being the person that 30 girls look up to, to get them ready to play in each and every game. So, Misty's done a great job helping me, and hopefully Phil will be back next year so we can get him back in the mix. But I've been learning as I go, and it's getting a little bit better as each day, and hopefully we're hitting all our strides right now going into the playoffs, and we're going to be a tough team to beat.
Steve, we mentioned about the fact that you guys got a lot of young girls and obviously some leadership with the upperclassmen, but would you say, the team as a whole, is it close-knit even though you have that kind of disparity in age and experience there?
I think it took a little while, to be honest, because I guess, with so many new players coming in and with them being as talented as they are, it was a battle, for playing time. So, whenever an upperclassman might not play as much as they did last year because a freshman is coming in and getting some of their time, I wouldn't say we had issues with it, but it just I think it took a little getting used to from everyone, But I tell you what, winning some big games, winning big rivalry games in overtime, things like that help bring the team together. We try to do some things off the field, team bonding type things to, get everybody to, get to know each other a little bit more. And, that's really helped out. But, nothing brings a team together like winning some big games and winning some big close games. And, we've been able to do that. And, I think we're just about as close as we've been, and we're in a really good situation right now.
Awesome. Steve, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and good luck in the playoffs.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for joining us, Steve.
All right, thanks. Bye.
On to Beyond Butler, our weekly segment where we talk about something that does not involve Butler County sports, whether professionally or collegiately. We're going to go with a topic that I'm very passionate about. I've been arguing with my friends in a group chat, seeing what they're saying as we've been recording this. So I want to bring it to the table here. Mike Tomlin had his press conference today, and as we know, Russell Wilson has been kind of inching his way back, and he has an even chance, Tomlin said, to be the starter this Sunday night against the Jets. So I think it might be interesting to see what Derek and Jake have to say about that.
I say stay with Fields. I said go with Fields after the Week 1 game against Atlanta. And I just can't believe that, you expect some fans to have kind of off-the-wall opinions, right? But the fact that the Steelers and Mike Tomlin are honestly thinking about replacing Fields with Wilson. Look, Wilson, he's a future Hall of Fame quarterback in my opinion, but he doesn't have the mobility, obviously, that he used to. So the way I see it, if you put Wilson in, that's going to make the Steelers even easier to defend because you don't have to worry about his running ability. And obviously with Fields, that's a huge part of his arsenal is the fact that he's able to run in key situations, pick up big first downs. He also has 5 rushing touchdowns. I say stay with Fields. And believe me, it kind of before he came to the Steelers, I was kind of rooting against Fields because I knew you were such a big fan of his. And I'd like to see this guy disappointed. You know, I root against Ohio State. But then when they traded him to the Steelers, I was in the car out in DuBois, of all places, the day that he got traded, and you texted me. You said it was the happiest moment in your life. Justin Fields, your favorite player, is now on your favorite team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So from that moment on, I'm rooting for him, and I say keep him in there.
The exact quote that I'm seeing from the AP story is that Wilson is in consideration, which at this point, it just feels like this was an inevitability. Like we were trying to talk ourselves into like as an office for the past few weeks of like, hey, you got to stick with Fields here because he's been playing well enough to win. He hasn't lost them games. Now his numbers, we were checking him a little bit last night. He's kind of middle of the pack for most passing stats this year. He's got like 260 rushing yards, I think. So it's not like he's taking the top off of defenses either with his arm or just blowing by him with his leg, a la Mike Vick or anything. But yeah, I mean, that running game minus Fields is not really good. I don't, Najee Harris had 100 yards rushing last week, but it's never
once
like
in a blue moon sort of thing right there.
And he's 3.5 yards in a cloud of dust. He's been that way since he broke into the NFL. Really, like if you take away Fields, where is your run game? That offensive line is decimated by injuries. Harris is not someone who's going to break open big plays, and now you're going to take away the one option that's keeping defenses a little bit honest in the run game and trying to, go with a statue of a quarterback who hasn't been good for several years. It feels, I guess Wilson has, just such an ability in the office to just schmooze upper management and fail his way promotionally all the way through. Cause like he hasn't done anything I think that deserves the starting job. Fields hasn't done anything to lose it, but it seems like the Steelers management is just committed to giving him the job, Wilson the job.
Look at Russell Wilson's recent play in the NFL. It has not been good, right? It's not like the Steelers got him from Seattle after a Pro Bowl season. They got him after a bad season with the Denver Broncos.
The Broncos were paying Russell Wilson to sit on the Steelers bench when they played them in the second week. They were paying him, I don't know how many million, but it was more than we're being paid for sure.
$70 million something is what his buyout was, what the dead cap hit is for the Broncos. It's a record.
If you count out this offensive line, Dan Moore's at left tackle, right? So he's there. Sumalo's back, but he didn't do that well last year. He's not doing that well this year.
The center's out.
You're on
again.
a third-string center now, right? Third-string center. I don't even know who the right guard is, to be honest. It's that Spencer Anderson guy, right?
Guess you know who he is.
Or there's Mason McCormick. I'm just trying to count. It's all these names you don't really know.
Yeah.
They're not like
and then one wide receiver.
Solidified blockers. Yeah, Broderick Jones at right tackle.
They're running a single wing.
They really are.
Russell Wilson's going to go out there and he's going to get battered. Like even Fields with the mobility he has. Charles Davis had a package at the end of the Raiders game. I'm sure you saw it where they showed the highlights of Fields evading pressure. Even then, he was getting killed.
Yeah.
And the Jets don't really have a set edge rusher like TJ Watt or Max.
Hey, Hassan Reddick might be back on the field in a week if his new agents get him on there.
There was news about him that he hired goons to I don't know, scare his agent or something like that. So that's the reason.
Wow.
That's what I saw on Twitter.
All right, good job, Philly.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just like you guys both said, Wilson is not the Russell Wilson of 2014, 2015. He has a really good defense. He doesn't have Marshawn Lynch in the backfield. I don't know. And this isn't just Ohio State bias. You have a younger guy who could be the future of your offense or who could lead your offense in the future. Let him develop. You're winning games. How's it hurting you right now? Obviously the second half of the schedule is going to be a little bit tougher, but even then, say Wilson gets hurt, you have to throw Fields back in there against the Ravens.
And I'll say this. I do want to point, this is a little bit off topic, but everybody talks about how good the Ravens are. As a Steeler fan, no matter how good the Steelers look compared to the Ravens in a given year or how good the Ravens look compared to the Steelers, 9 times out of 10, those games are a 6-7 point game, even less 3-point game. The Ravens look very good right now, but I'm very confident the Steelers can play them tough and play in both games this year. It's going to be a close game. It almost always is.
I had a dream. You remember in 2010, whenever the Ravens beat the Steelers in Week 1, it was like 40-something. You remember that game?
Yes, and Warren Sapp said they were too old to make the playoffs, and they made the playoffs. Now, that was the year they lost to Tebow, but they did make the playoffs.
Yeah, that was – I had nightmares. I literally had nightmares about that game as like a 6th grader.
I called that play-action pass in overtime.
Oh, I got Tebowed in that game. Oh.
I was just like, they're gonna throw it here. I was like, they haven't – They didn't throw a pass in all of regulation on first down, and I was like, "This is where they do it. They're finally going to do it." And over the top beats them. I was like, I was just running around the living room.
Like Taylor,
Mike Tomlin, we know you're listening. Speaking of God and football, you guys
Derek's
remember?
not even looking at me.
You remember when Stevie Johnson dropped the winning touchdown for the Bills?
2010,
And he went on Twitter and blamed God.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he blamed God. But here's the thing. I do want to point this out. How many times does a player make a play? And they say they made the play because of God. To me, that's just as stupid. No, you made the play. You dropped the ball. God has nothing to do with it.
I love.
God's not placing money on. He's not betting in Vegas on any team.
What if he was though?
Yeah, what if he
was?
was?
If
What
he
if
is,
Put the thumb on the scale. Let's imagine God at Vegas.
What if he was
now.
like, boop, boop, doop?
Well, the Miracle on Ice. Apparently, he was rooting for the USA.
What if he's
in
like,
1980.
he's going to drop it? I'm going to call it. He's going to drop it because I made him drop it.
No,
That'd be so good.
Ooh,
Someone needs to
the
make a
ball's
movie
coming
about
down.
this.
But I'm with you.
we need
I'm
to
with
do-
you, Derek.
We need to do Bruce Almighty 3 and just have that be
Oh
the plot.
gosh,
the ball's
let's
coming
not.
down to his arms, and God just blows a little bit. And the ball
He's like, do I want them to win? He's like, no, I remember what he did last
Do
weekend.
I want
Dropping the
Cleveland?
ball?
Do I want the Browns to finally win a Super Bowl? No.
No, no one does.
Even
Because-
Cleveland fans don't want. It's trivia time.
It's not called trivia.
Trying
What's
to
it
get back
called?
above 500.
Brendan, give us your best Stump Derek.
So, Derek.
Yeah.
No, come on.
Oh, you want me to say it?
Yeah, I want you to.
Stump Derek.
There we go.
Bring it, big boy.
Derek, which NFL quarterback was the first to throw for more than 1,000 yards in a single season?
All right, that's the question. I get a few minutes to think about it. Now we're going to go to pick time.
I've never heard Derek more excited to say that. Now we're going to pick time.
Pick time. All right, as you guys know, the first 5 games we'll get a bit of analysis, and then the last 5 this week, because we actually have 2 local teams playing each other, the last 5 will just be picks. Butler at Willing Park. Jake, as you know, we talked about this last week. Butler has not had a winning season since 1997. They still have a shot. They're 4-4. They got 2 games left, but they have to win this week to keep chances of a winning season alive. And they're going to Willing Park to face the Patriots. What are your thoughts?
I hope that they're working more on that Wildcat offense that they basically fully deployed last week. By the second half, they were running Nico Bagetta out of that formation almost exclusively. If this is the way that they want the offense to run for the last 2 weeks of the season, and theoretically it looks like he'd be the front runner to be the starting quarterback next year, just considering he's a sophomore now, Tef will be graduating. They need a passing threat. There was no passing threat last week against Alderdice, and Alderdice, forced them to run, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and Butler did just enough to win that game. Now that there's tape out there, I think Wheeling Park's got enough in play with a defense, led by Jamison Maynard, who I think's got about 100 tackles according to Max Preps going into this week. I think Wheeling Park's going to be able to slow this offense down. I'm going with them 28-14 in West Virginia.
Brendan.
I think Butler could only manage 7 points at home against a team that doesn't quite match up to this week's opponent. Jay covered that game. That sort of offensive output will not cut it this week. I think Wheeling Park wins 35-14.
Wheeling Park has a running back named Brennan, not Brendan, Brennan Wack, he's a junior running back for the Patriots. He's averaging almost 150 yards per game on the ground and has scored 13 touchdowns. I think he will be the difference. I'm taking Wheeling Park 30-13. All right, now Mars looking for this would be getting back on track. I just remembered last week that Mars lost. They had 2 straight wins against West Mifflin and Knock. They lost last week to McKeesport. Now they're going to Hampton to face a struggling Talbot's team. Does Mars get back on track, Jake?
As I lose my notes here for a second, I think that they will look a lot better this week. I'm picking them to win 41-14. It's not been good for the Talbots so far this season. Their offense has struggled to put up points consistently. I think that's all Mars needs to run away with this game.
Okay. Brendan.
Mars beat Knock. Knock trounced Hampton. Therefore, Mars will make easy work of Hampton. Mars 35-13.
Math.
Love that analysis.
Transitive property.
The Talbots will struggle to stop the Planet's running game. Kasparovich he actually had a decent average last week, but he still only rushed for like 47 yards. I think the running game gets going this week. They don't fall behind big, and that's going to allow that running game to kind of take control and take over that game. I like Mars to win this one going away 38-6. All right, now we're talking about Knock at West Mifflin, another Greater Allegheny Conference game. Knock really has to win this game to stay in the thick of the wild card race in Whitbill Quad A. Jake, do the Knights go to West Mifflin and pull off a win against the Titans?
I will say that one of the things that's impressed me about Knock and a couple other teams this year is when they suffer haymaker losses, they most of them seem to recover quite nicely. Knock did that last week after a Week 7 loss at Mars. I think they'll make this 2 straight and win this one 35-14.
Brendan.
Speaking of haymaker losses and responding, keep an eye out for my story on Carn City later this week in the Butler Eagle.
Teaser.
Injuries, who cares? Cody Mullen is a game breaker, and he showed that. Tough as nails. I'm taking the Knights 24-20.
With McKeesport lurking on its schedule 2 Fridays from now, I think Knock absolutely has to win this game if they want to stay in consideration for that one of those wild card spots in Quad A in the Whitbill when it comes playoff time. I think they go down to West Mifflin. I think they take care of business. Might be a little closer than a lot of people are expecting, but I do think the Knights are going to win 28-19. All right, North Catholic at Avonworth. Brennan, we're going to go to you first on this one. You've just covered North Catholic last week against Beaver. Now they got another stiff test. They lost last week by 38 points to the Bobcats. Now they've got another stiff test with the Avonworth Antelopes on the road. Do you like their chances? Will they win?
My blowouts curse affected North Catholic last week. We've talked about that extensively on the show, and I won't be there this week, but that does not make it any easier. Avonworth wins 35-20.
Jake.
So doing research for this, I looked at the power rankings on Trib Live to just kind of see where Avonworth stacked up, and I realized that North Catholic has faced 4 of the top 5 teams in Class 3A in the last 4 weeks. This has been a really, really tough stretch for them. It will not be any easier on Friday night. I have Avonworth winning this one 45-17.
You know, we talked several times this year about the passing attack, whether it was Joey Felitsky and then he got injured and then Tom Arth came in and whoever was at quarterback for North Catholic was throwing the ball all over the place. They have a very talented group of receivers too, but one thing that North Catholic also has is a defense that's struggling. Now, Jake, you brought up the fact that they're playing really good teams, and that obviously has something to do with the fact that North Catholic's given up 35, 40, 45 points like pretty much every week. But the fact for me remains that Avonworth is a really good team, and I think they're also going to be able to put up too many points on the Trojans for North to keep up, and I got Avonworth winning this game 37-22. All right, Hickory at Slippery Rock, a game that I'll be at. Brendan, the Hornets are really good. The Rockets have 2 wins right now. One of those wins is in region. Do they pick up a second region win?
So foreshadowing your guys' picks here, we are all in agreement this week. So Grove City lost to Hickory by 63, Colony up by 57. Those are the 2 mutual opponents these teams have had. Hickory wins this one 40-18.
I told you shouldn't drink before you go on the show here.
Oh, my gosh.
Jake.
Just the soda he's had or the coffee. I'm not sure which. The Hornets have scored at least 49 points in 3 straight. The Rockets just do not have the ammunition or the biggins on defense to slow this thing down. I think Hickory's going to get to 49 again and win 49-7.
I like I like the Hornets to win. I do think the Rockets are going to find a way to make this closer than most expect, but I still have Hickory winning by double digits, 32-21. Now we're going to just the picks, ma'am. You hear that, Brendan? Seneca Valley at Central Catholic. Brendan.
I'm going with Central Catholic 34-13.
Jake.
47-14 Central Catholic.
33-10 Central Catholic. Freeport at East Allegheny, Brendan.
Freeport 35-6.
Jake.
I'm going Freeport 49-7.
I don't often pick a blowout. I pick blowouts all the time. I don't often pick a shutout. I'm picking Freeport to win this game 45-0.
I think that's the second time in 3 weeks you've said that same thing.
Well, there we go. See. Summit Academy at Neshannock. Jake.
40-13 Neshannock.
Brendan.
Neshannock 30-12.
Neshannock 46-12. All right, here's the question. Keystone coming to Karn City. Does Karn City score 60-plus points for this third straight week?
If they do, they definitely have a Butler County record, that's for sure. I'm not going to go with them to score that much, 35-20.
Jake.
Gremlins in peak Halloween form here, 44-16 win.
Okay, I'm taking Karn City to win 42-14. All right, the game on the schedule this week that involves two local teams, Montauk going to Reimersburg to face the Union AC Valley Falcon Knights. Jake.
I appreciated Montauk's players and coaches talking to Steve last week after their 7th straight loss and what's been a really trying season, and being very open and honest about this, how things have gone. But I'm going to go with Union AC to win this one in yet another blowout, 49-7.
Brennan.
Union AC Valley 40-8.
Union AC Valley 45-8. And that does it for the picks. By the way, I'm in first place right now.
Barnes
Just
City.
saying.
Just
saying. Had to get that in there.
Barnes City. Corn City.
Corn City?
Farm City.
All right. Here we go. Trivia time. Ask the question again, Brennan.
Derek, which NFL quarterback was the first to throw for 1,000 yards in a single season?
So we're talking back when 1,000 yards was like the 4,000 yards now. Arnie Herber.
Oh, my God.
Wow. Oh, Brendan was talking so much smack before he came down here about this.
Green Bay Packers.
Look at that.
Do you know what year it was?
5-4.
Let me think here. 1938.
Oh, 36. I was going to have to pour water on you to make sure you're not robot.
So proud of Derek on that. Brendan.
All right, we're going to move the final few minutes of the show today toward high school football. We talked a little bit about volleyball and golf and soccer earlier. Now we're going to go to the gridiron. Seneca Valley, Mars, and Knock are each looking to salvage a playoff berth after a rough first half of the season. Seneca Valley and Mars are all but in the Whitbill playoffs. They have not clinched yet, but they're going to be in. Over the last few weeks, enough stuff's going to happen that's going to put them in, while Knock still has its destiny in its own hands if it can win out. Your thoughts on any of these three teams so far and moving forward, whether it's something that happened in the past for them, how they've kind of turned things around. Moving forward, Jake, what are your thoughts?
What I'm thinking right now is like Mars is going in to these last couple weeks and potentially the playoffs with the most momentum. They seem to know who they are a little bit better than the others. I know they lost last week, but they had a few really good games right before that. They seem to have leaned into this power running game. Their defense makes enough plays in most games to win it. I think going into this, even with Luke Goodworth out for most of the season, not sure when he's coming back, if at all, they found their identity. That can matter quite a bit going into the playoffs. So I think depending on matchups, obviously, that's the huge caveat to all this. Depending on matchups, I think the Planets are in the best shape going into Whitbeals.
Brendan, your thoughts?
I'm going to go with the team that isn't guaranteed to make the playoffs. I've covered them a few times. Against Newcastle, they put up a really good fight, and things might have turned out differently, even though that wasn't a conference game in terms of confidence following that game. But the fact that this team, when I was talking to Timberchet in the preseason, had 28 kids, and they're dealing with injuries now, obviously, some pretty key players,
Mm-hmm.
especially Caden Spencer. I don't know what Wyatt Foster's status is at this point. The fact that they've been able to do what they've been able to do after taking some rough losses and responding in the way they have has been really impressive. If there's a team based on effort and trying deserves to make the playoffs, it's got to be Knock.
Okay, well, Mars is definitely in the best shape. I agree with Jake there. The Planets are going to earn a guaranteed Whitbill playoff spot by placing second in the Greater Allegheny Conference. That's going to happen over the next few weeks. They're going to go to the 4A playoffs as a second-place team. While Knock will have to hope for a wild card spot, Seneca Valley is pretty much in. They have to have pretty much like 4 or 5 things go against them over the last 2 weeks to not get in. But I will say I kind of agree with Brendan here with Knock. Small roster to start the season, which is obviously something Seneca Valley and Mars really weren't dealing with. In retrospect, I do think that the move last year, Knock had a really good season, but they were AAA. The move up to Quad A this season, I think it kind of affected them a little bit more than we thought. And you couple that with a small roster, injuries to Colt Sprankle, Wyatt Foster, Caden Spencer. I do like the way they've handled it. Whether or not they make the playoffs or not, I think they haven't given up. I covered a game this year against Montour where I picked Knock and they went down there and got blown out. We all picked them against Mars this year where they got blown out, but they keep getting off the mat. And I think last week was a prime example that they could have laid down easily against Hampton with all the injuries and everything that was going against them. And they came up with, I believe, it was a 21-point win. So,
what does that mean? I don't hear no bell.
But
Just came out of left field.
Knock deserves credit whether or not they make the playoffs this year. I still think the odds are probably against them because their last game of the regular season is against McKeesport, and I just saw McKeesport, and McKeesport is a really, really strong team. But if Knock wins this week against West Mifflin, even if they do lose to McKeesport, that would give them a 3-2 conference record. Is that strong enough? They'd be 4-6 overall. Is that strong enough to get one of the wild cards? I don't know. But kudos to Tim Burchett and Seneca Valley because we all thought they were dead in the water at some point this year too, and they're going to be playing in the 6A playoffs. So
Yeah.
Alter Eagles Ion Sports Podcast would like to thank our sponsors: Butler County Chamber of Commerce, R.W. McDonald & Sons Incorporated, Robert Stevens Jewelers. We encourage you to subscribe to the Butler Eagle YouTube channel and Apple or Spotify podcast or your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Alter Eagle Podcast and at Butler Eagle News. Goodbye.